I got all I want, and I got all I need, and I got everything. I got you and me. All I want, I got all I need.
Marriage is the best. Welcome back to Marriage is the Best. We're so glad that you have chosen to join us today. Every week, we talk a little bit about marriage and marriage stuff, and we hope to encourage and to improve marriages. So, we hope that today you will be encouraged and improved. Today, we are going to be talking about a concept that I came up with a couple of weeks ago when working with some clients. And I have lovingly named this concept the stack. The stack is a buildup of unresolved issues. Essentially what we're talking about is over time, issues arise in our relationships. And as they arise, we can either deal with them as they come, or we can allow them to enter the stack. The stack can grow, or we can choose to manage it. Hurts and wounds tend to enter the stack, and they can get pretty hurt and wounded as they go and as they grow. All unresolved issues that create hurts and wounds tend to get put in the stack. And oftentimes, when people are feeling unheard or unseen or misunderstood or unknown, that stack builds quite quickly. I'm not feeling connected to you. Some of the things that you are doing and saying, not doing, not saying, not hearing me on are getting placed in this space in between us. And that's oftentimes where the stack goes. It's almost like you're sitting across from your partner at the dinner table, and the hurts and the wounds, they get added up, and with enough in this stack, you're not really able to see your partner, especially because those wounds and hurts can build up right in between you. It can make it feel like there's a wall of woundedness keeping you from your partner. And oftentimes, when there is a large stack and something goes awry, a normal or natural conflict arises, then the stack feels heavy and disconnecting, and it creates distance in the relationship. Emotional, physical, other related kinds of distance. The stack is kind of a normal course of relationship when it comes to most things. Most relationships, you could have a unresolved hurt or wound in a relationship with your parents or a relationship with your siblings. You could have that within a relationship with a friend, a church, a pastor, a small group, a leader, a coworker, a manager. I mean, the stack in any kind of relationship will negatively impact one's ability to move through it and be healthy in it. Oftentimes, I see people come into counseling with a large stack. A group of hurts stacked on top of one another, negatively impacting their ability to move in and through their marriage. And so the stack oftentimes brings people into counseling, and I find people that come into counseling oftentimes are carrying quite the stack. Sometimes I even have seen a good number of individuals who have come into counseling that are experiencing a stack of hurt, And so with these stacks, with these buildups of unresolved issues, both people and their relationships are much more difficult to achieve the level of health that one wants to achieve within any given relationship. Now, there is a way to address and even preemptively kind of care for the stack. There's a way that you can move through your relationship that actually helps you avoid stacking your hurts and wounds. And essentially, the ultimate kind of stack care is through leaving nothing unrepaired, coming at your relationship with the idea that no conflict is too small, that all the conflict that we, enter into, that comes across, that we come across in our relationship is dealt with and addressed. It's something that we go after, knowing that if we don't address the things that are coming up, the wounds and the hurts and the struggles and the conflict, that those things can and very well may get stacked in between us. When we go at the stack, when we set up our marriage in such a way that things can't get stacked up by regularly connecting and regularly repairing and not allowing small things to build, we protect our marriage and they become more sustainable. Because as a stack grows, it gets more and more difficult to address. It doesn't mean it can't be addressed. Pretty much all stacks can be addressed. But unfortunately, the more stacked wounds and hurts that you have, the more work there is to be done to kind of resolve and heal and get to a place in your relationship that you really want to be in. And so the easiest way to not have a stack in your relationship is to not allow one to build over time and to genuinely and very intentionally move through your relationship and have necessary conversations about what's going on and about hurts and wounds as they come up so that you can't build up a backlog of unresolved issues. Really big stacks often require counseling or radical levels of responsibility and accountability. Really big stacks are difficult to work through, but not impossible. I've seen personally many couples work through incredibly large stacks of wounds that have come out on the other side healthy and happy and looking forward toward the future and ready to do the work to continue to stay connected and to stay real in their relationship. But it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of work to engage the wounds and the hurts and the slights and the discomfort and the conflict. It takes a lot of work to address those in the day-to-day, as they come up. But it's also a lot of work, maybe arguably even more work, a lot more work, to let the stack grow and build and then to attempt to address the stack after it's grown. This week, as I reflected on our relationship, it was a really good week for Bex and I. We spent a lot of very intentional time connecting. We worked well as a team. The foibles and, idiosyncrasies that often come out, especially from my end of things, were covered in grace, which is one of the ways that we talked about prioritizing each other. And it was just a really close week. We were close. We were intimately connected, emotionally and relationally connected this week. And it felt really good to be putting in lots of work to defend our relationship from the stack coming and causing problems. And it's something that we have worked really hard at for a very long time. And seeing the fruit of it is something that you don't always hear about. You don't always hear about relationships that that are putting in the work that are benefiting from it. And so part of the reason to talk about this stack today was actually to say that when you set your relationship up and it is guarded from the stack and you are able to avoid stacking up wounds and hurts and difficult things, it's a really beautiful thing and it's worth it. And the fruit is really, really sweet. And it does make your relationship feel way more sustainable and healthy. Now, if you're listening to this and you have a large stack between you and your partner, it's difficult to see them. It's difficult to be near them. It's difficult to go to bed with them. It's difficult to be in the same house as them. It's difficult to communicate with them because oftentimes when the stack is way high, communication almost becomes impossible. Once the stack's at a certain level, right, you can't even really see your partner at all. And so if you can't see them and you can't communicate really clearly with them, and all you're really seeing is you're just surrounded by these wounds and these hurts that have crept up and built up over time, it can be incredibly discouraging and hurtful. And oftentimes people start feeling very alone. People start feeling unseen and unheard and misunderstood and disconnected. Ultimately, long form disconnection kind of settles in. And it can make it really difficult to want to work on anything. Every relationship that I have seen die and go away, there's a grief around that. And sometimes I think that our relationships need a kind of phoenix mentality of death and rebirth. The phoenix is a legendary creature, a bird that burns up in fire and then rebirths, if that's a word, and comes back to life. And sometimes marriages and marriage covenants, when they've been broken or when they've been wounded or when they've been managed really poorly and the stack is way too high, sometimes they need a refresh. Sometimes they need new life. And sometimes you need to start over. Sometimes the table needs to be wiped clean and you need to come back at the relationship with a fresh covenant, fresh commitments, fresh responsibility, fresh accountability, fresh admissions of shortcomings and shortfalls and kind of a forgiveness of the old so that we could make room for the new. Because some stacks just aren't worth going through. Some stacks are not worth picking out all of the hurtful things, reminding each other all of the things that have been said and been done. And, whoever has the better memory maybe wins. But ultimately, the marriage in and of itself is worth working on, worth working toward, worth overcoming the stack so that you can have a future with your life partner. And this person that you have known and loved and cherished and struggled with and argued with and yelled at and hurt and has hurt you is worth fighting for. They are worth your time. They are worth your energy. They are worth your effort. They are worth doing the work to love, doing the work to reduce the stack or wipe the stack out so that you guys can work through this thing and enter into your new season with a new, fresh set of eyes and ears for each other. I was talking to a colleague about divorce the other day, and he was saying how when a marriage is dead, it's almost impossible to revive it, which I have definitely seen many, many times. And instead, a better mentality is that it needs to be left dead, and then something new needs to be created in its place. I think it's such a fascinating idea when applied to a marriage. And in our context, we were talking about it in the context of marriage. It was super fascinating, though, because I have seen many dead marriages. And most of the time when I'm seeing a dead marriage, it feels like something, there's a certain feeling. There's a certain feel that comes along with a marriage that has died. But when I think about like creating something brand new and how much hope there is, if there is a way to like remove your stack from your relationship and you were able to have something new, create something new, a new covenant, right? The first marriage covenant is broken. It's dead. There's so much hurt and woundedness. But if there's responsibility on both sides and a willingness to create something new, I think it can be done. I think it can be redeemed. I think that the relationship can move forward as long as there isn't abuse or misconduct or addictions, getting in the way of the people growing and moving forward. If those things have been overcome or those things have been addressed, then I think that new life can be breathed into the relationship. And all it would really take is two people willing to own their part of the stack, willing to move forward with new covenantal decisions, new covenantal intentions to honor one another and to rebuild the connection so that they can move forward, so that they can enter into the next season of their lives, whether it be, the disillusionment phase or the teamwork phase or the disruption phase or, whatever phase they're in. If they were to move forward into that next phase, if they could move forward with this new covenant, a new marriage, essentially. And I finally kind of understood in that moment when we were talking about it, the idea that somebody would renew their vows. I think that after a long period of marriage, things can get really difficult when a stack has created distance and hurt in their relationship. But a renewal of vows almost feels like a renewal of the relationship, a renewal of the covenant, a renewal of one another and the relationship. And I think it's a really cool idea. I think it's a fascinating idea that we could represent this new marriage that we need, right? Not a second or a third marriage, but a new one. Same you, same me, obviously different based on, time and everything that we've learned in the last X amount of years. But it's the same person, right? Like same you, same me, but a new covenant. We're going to take all that we learned and all of the hurts that we created and all of the difficulties that we went through, and we're going to create this new thing together. We're going to continue to choose one another, and we're going to create a confident, we're going to create a covenant with one another to continue to choose. And, sometimes that's helpful when there's a third party to kind of coach you through that. And I love coaching couples through kind of rebuilding and re-engaging, reestablishing themselves and honoring the history and honoring the wounds and the hurts that have been had, right? We don't spend zero time on that, but also pointing in the direction of renewal, redemption, new life, and a future together. Because I believe that every marriage not every marriage. I believe that there are so many marriages out there that if they were chosen and if they were worked on diligently and if they were taken responsibility for and the system was set up so that they could be sustained, that a lot of people would actually benefit from continuing to choose their marriages that feel dead rather than giving up on them and choosing to vacate them. And so maybe sometimes that happens because people don't know that there's another option. It's either I divorce you or we keep doing what we're doing. And what we're doing is become so painful that we can't keep doing that. Well, maybe there's a third option. Maybe we can address the stack, and maybe we can move forward with a new covenant, and maybe counseling helps with that. Maybe mentorship, maybe a book or 2 or 3 can help. But ultimately, when there are 2 people willing to choose each other, willing to work on things, and willing to renew their covenantal relationship, then all of a sudden you've got a recipe for a very exciting, healthy development in a person's life that will touch that life and so many lives around them for so many years to come. And so it's worth it. It's worth doing that work. So that's the episode for today. Let us know what you think about the stack. If it's a dumb name, feel free to let us know that, because maybe it is. Maybe there's another way of saying that would be more helpful or more applicable. Anyways, this is the end.